everyone, and welcome back to episode 4 of Tablemon History. We missed last week because of the release of Battle Styles, but here we are back again with Tablemon History and my first ever World Championship in 2004. This was the deck that I ended up choosing to play. The Lantern might seem familiar to some of you because it did get released not too long ago. Re-released or reprinted not too long ago with buffed up damage in Celestial Storm. I played this deck, I developed this deck with the same group that developed the Nidoqueen deck that got top 4 in 2005. We were very confident in this deck. It was a sort of an anti-meta call. It was Lantern was a really solid attacker at the time, doing 90 damage, and with the Strength Charm doing 100, which was like a very magical number. And then Medicham punished all the big hands that players would have because they were playing like Delcatty and Magneton, so they would start accumulating so many cards in their hand, and Meditate doing damage for each card in their hand was really good. And then Banette also punished with both attacks in the late game, doing damage based on the opponent's Pokemon in their discard pile, and also based on the special energy in their discard pile. Double Rainbow Energy was very popular. There were other special energies around that were popular, like the Boost Energy, which is essentially triple acceleration. So it was a really nice, well-rounded deck that unfortunately took a big fat L against the Magma deck, which no one saw coming. The Japanese players, Yamato, the world champion, they all used that deck. I never saw it coming, and then I actually played against Yamato at that World Championship, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So we left off. My visa arrived just a couple of days before the trip. I was super excited. The World Championship was held in Orlando, Florida in 2004. I was extremely excited to put a face to the people that I had been talking to online for the whole season, basically, but I had never met them in real life. They had met each other, right? Because I talked mostly with Americans, but no one had met me. I had only played in Mexico. And so when I landed in Florida, I got to the World's Hotel, like nobody knew who I was. And so I started introducing myself, and I started finding people and messaging, and it was really awesome. I really remember that World 2004, the first time I met so many of the Pokemon players that I talked to that are like you'll recognize today, like Puka Galsukevic, Michael Pramawat. Those are the two big names that I think are still relevant from back then, right? From that very first Worlds, which was amazing. And so I found my report on Pokegym. I found my Pablo's Worlds 2004 report, and it's very funny for me to see how Pablo in 2004 writes and thought, right? I remember writing that report, right? Sitting down at this huge old computer, writing down that report 17 years ago, sorry. That's a long time. That's a long time ago. I described my deck list, and so I actually have the details of what I played against. So round 1, I played against Metagross Gorbis, which usually was one of the hardest matchups for this deck. But you were able to punish in the late game with Banette doing a lot of extra damage with the special energies that they had in their discard pile. They did more damage based on the energy in play, but as you took knockouts, those energies were being discarded. And Metal Energy back then was not a basic energy, was only a special energy. So between that one and Double Rainbow Energy, Banette was very nice to clean up in the late game, and you had weakness over the Gorbis with Lantern, I believe. And this deck was very energy efficient thanks to Lantern's ability. So I took that win in round 1, and then round 2 I went up against Blaziken, which was like one of the best matches for this. We expected Blaziken to be a very popular choice, and I'm only now realizing that I played against 7 different decks in Worlds at that time. It was only 7 rounds. It was best of 1 as well. Round 2 I end up beating Blaziken, and I seem to have punished the big hands that accumulated with the Medicham, that they accumulate with Delcatty with my own Medicham, doing more damage for each card on their in their hand, and because I didn't play any EXs, right, the trade against the Rayquaza EX and the Blaziken EX was always favorable for me. Round 3, I played against Gardevoir with Delcatty Magneton, and they got off to a slow start, so I was able to punish. Well, they didn't get off to a slow start. Sorry, they were getting. They took a while to get Gardevoir out, but they did have Delcatty and Magneton, so I was able to get some prizes early with Medicham. Once again, that was a big trend because you had this big drawing cards like Steven's Advice, right, up there, and the Delcatty Magneton engine. So like back then you would have like 15 cards in your hand very easily, right? You would copycat for 15, copycat for 10 very easily, sort of like Zoroark days. And you were able to punch that with Medicham, and when the HPs were like 100, 150, it was like, ooh, that's a lot of HP. Then Medicham was a really powerful threatening Pokemon. And so I was able to get ahead early, and then Banette apparently was able to one-kill the Gardevoir, which was weak to Psychic, and Banette is also Psychic type. And then we had lunch break, and apparently I couldn't stop playing Pokemon, and I played 4 games during the lunch break, and I won 3 of those, losing 1. And then that, I wish, had been my record after the lunch break, because after the lunch break, everything just went down the drain for me. Everything just went down the drain for me. So round 4, I played against Yamato. Okay, so I've known Yamato for a long time. He has a family now. He's retired. I think he'll make a comeback once his kid or kids are able to play Pokemon. He has, like, we're friends on Facebook. He has shown things like that. He posts a lot about his kids and now playing with cards and whatnot. So that's really cute. And so he flipped over team the Groudon, and I was like, oh wow, my whole deck is actually like really struggles with this, right? It's a big basic, it one kills Lantern, I don't want to kill him. It's just gonna be a tough matchup, and it was exactly a tough matchup. And there were 2 very funny instances, right? Back then, right, you have to remember, this is 2004, right, where technology is very, very limited, and we had 2 quirky things happen during our game. So the first quirky thing that happened was I attached a Strength Charm, right, to my Pokemon. And apparently, Strength Charm in Japan, the wording said, Strength Charm gets discarded at the end of your turn. Whether you attack or not doesn't matter. But in everywhere else in the world, that part of the text wasn't included. So we just played the Strength Charm, right? And that was it. It would just get attached just like any other tool card that we have today, right? So just like Big Charm or Balloon or Vitality Band. Yeah, but Strength Charm apparently should have been worded as it gets discarded at the end of the turn, whether you attacked or not. But we didn't know that. So then when I didn't attack with a Pokemon I attached the Strength Charm with, Yamato grabbed the card and discarded for me. And I was like, no, I didn't attack, so I put it back. And because of the language barrier, right, I don't speak Japanese, he didn't speak English or Spanish. So we had to call judges, and then they explained, and they realized that there was this difference. And they actually made an announcement about it at the World Championships. And then we had something else happen. Okay, so Japanese players at the time, like, they were known for playing a lot of flippy cards like Pokemon Reversal, but also Energy Removal 2 and whatnot. And when he played a Pokemon Reversal, right, he grabbed the die, I distinctly remember this, he grabbed the die and he pointed to 4, 5, and 6. I had no idea why he was doing that, but he did that, and then he flipped the die, right, and it landed on 5. Okay, so we both celebrated, like we were both like, yeah, at the 5, and then we were both very confused because for him 5, like, he was pointing to the heads, right? So the bottom 3 numbers were tails and the top 3 numbers were heads. That's how Japanese players, at least in 2004, used dice. Okay, but for me it was 2, 4, 6 is heads, 1, 3, 5 is tails. So when he rolled the 5, it was a heads for him and it was a tails for me, and that's what we both celebrated. And then we were both confused, and then we had to call over a judge and we got another ruling. It was ruled in my favor, and then they made another announcement about Japanese players and dice, yeah. So that was like two funny instances. I still got steamrolled. Like those things didn't actually make a difference in terms of their result, but it was like a quirky interaction that happened to me in my first World Championship against the first Japanese player that I ever played against. And so I got steamrolled there. Worlds was only 7 rounds back then. I had a 3-1 record, and I knew that all I needed to do was win one of the next 2 rounds, and then I could ID the rest, and I would be perfectly fine. However, ironically, I had already played against Magma, and then round 5 I played against Team Aqua, right? Probably the only Team Aqua deck that was in the room, right? I got paired against Team Aqua right after, and turns out that the big water people and the big grass HP Pokemon were really hard to overcome with my deck, and he played Mr. Briny's Compassion, which also, like, I didn't one kill his Pokemon, and he would heal them and transfer energy, and it was just a big mess, and I got completely rolled over, and I was at 3-2, right? And then finally in round 6 I played a guy from Germany. If that's you, please let me know. I played against a Mock EX deck, right? And I just completely got rolled over. Apparently I had a bad start because my attackers, like, they have a good matchup against EXs. You trade favorably, and then you have Desert Ruins to even add for the extra damage. But apparently my start was not good. The Mock EX stopped abilities, right? So then that stopped my Lantern from being able to absorb energies, and with the underwhelming start that I got, I just ended up losing that match. Oh, it was Sceptile EX, right? Sceptile EX, Mock EX, and I think Sceptile EX had a healing attackers of some sort. So it was just like, it was a really rough game for me, and I ended up 3-3 at that point. And then in the last round, I played against Swampert EX. He played a 3-3 Delcatty line, apparently, and that meant his hand ended up being super huge every time, and Medicham traded very favorably against him, and thus I ended up my first World Championship at a 4-3 record. So with only 7 rounds, that actually had a chance to bubble into top 32 if some of the 4-2s didn't ID, and it made sense for them not to ID because it was risky, right, for them, because some 4-2-1s were going to bubble out if they all ID'd, but then they still all ID'd, and I was placed in 36th place at the World, on my first World Championship. So I didn't make it to, it was a top 32 cut, and then it was a single elimination bracket of top 32. That's how it worked back then. And so I had the highest win percentage of the 4-3s, but I didn't make it, right? I didn't make it, but at the time, like, I was super ecstatic. It was my first World Championship. I had an awesome time. It was amazing. I had so much fun. I met all these people, and like, I was in Orlando and I never went to Disney once. I was having so much fun at the hotel. All I did was play Pokemon 20 hours, go back to bed, sleep 4, and then back down, and then I kept playing Pokemon and talking with everyone on Pokemon, and I breathed and lived Pokemon, and it was just an amazing time. I think I went out once to eat at one restaurant, and in the meantime my mom was with my brother hanging out in Disney, Epcot, Universal. They did do all the touristy stuff, which I didn't do. But yeah, this was the deck that I played. It was a very nice experience. I have very fun memories of Worlds 2004, which was 17 years ago. That's crazy to think about. 17 years ago. And yeah, Tablemon history. That wraps up the first season, right? The first full season after Pokemon took over from Wizards of the Coast. And at that point, like, not making top 32 only lit a bigger fire in my competitive mind, and I wanted to keep playing, keep doing well, and with the goal of becoming world champion, right? And then next up was the 2005 season, which was full of near hits and near misses, and we'll get to that in the next video. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all of you who watch this series. I hope you're enjoying this. This is a little bit of me opening up, and especially this is nice, a nice change of pace, because I'm sure if you're watching this, you're probably a follower of the channel, and you've seen my struggles in the videos, in the games, lately, right? I wish we could go back to this beautiful 80 HP single price Pokemon meta game, but I don't think that's ever coming back. But oh well. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.